Step outside here on a winter morning, and the first thing that happens is that the inside of your nose freezes solid. Take a breath, and the moisture in the air you exhale freezes instantly and crackles as it falls. A faint tinkling sound the people here call the whisper of the stars. Your eyelashes frost white and stick together within minutes. Any skin you leave exposed begins to freeze almost at once, and if you touch bare metal with a bare hand, it will bond to your skin and tear it away when you pull free. This is not a once-in-a-generation cold snap. This is a normal morning, an ordinary winter's day in a place where the temperature routinely falls to -50 degrees Celsius and has on record dropped far, far lower than that. And yet, in this impossible cold, a few hundred people wake up every day. They get dressed, they send their children to school, they go to work. They live entire lives here, in what is the coldest, permanently inhabited place on the face of the earth. This is Oymyakon. Let me show you what it takes to survive a place this cold, and the dark secret buried in the only road that leads to it. Oymyakon sits deep in Siberia, in a vast, remote region of eastern Russia called Yakutia. To even picture where it is, imagine travelling far into the frozen interior of the largest country on earth, into a landscape of endless taiga forest and mountains, hundreds of kilometres from any large city. This region is sometimes called the Pole of Cold, the coldest inhabited spot in the entire northern hemisphere, and Oymyakon is its frozen heart. Now, one town does dispute that crown. A few hundred kilometres away sits Verkhoyansk, Oymyakon's ancient rival for the title of coldest place people actually live. The two have traded record lows for over a century, but Oymyakon holds the coldest reading the record books officially recognise, and that reading is almost impossible to comprehend. Because just how cold does it get? The numbers are hard to even process. Winter temperatures here regularly sit around -50 degrees, and the record is almost beyond belief. A reading of -67.7 degrees Celsius, that's about -90 degrees Fahrenheit, was officially recorded here in 1933, with some unofficial claims of it dropping even lower. At those temperatures, the cold stops being weather and becomes something closer to a physical force, something that presses in on everything and everyone all the time. And there is a bitter irony hidden in the name. Oymyakon is said to mean something like the water that does not freeze, a reference to a natural hot spring nearby. The coldest town on earth is named after warm water. So what does it actually take to live here? Because everything you take for granted about ordinary life stops working in this kind of cold. And the ways people adapt are extraordinary. Start with something as simple as your car. In Oymyakon, if you switch off your engine and leave it, the cold can freeze the fuel, thicken the oil to sludge, and turn your vehicle into a useless block of frozen metal. So people simply don't turn their cars off. Engines are often left running for hours, for the entire time a car is in use during the day, or kept in specially heated garages. To stop is to risk being stranded in temperatures that can kill you. Then there's food. You cannot farm here. The ground is permafrost, frozen solid for most of the year, and no crops will grow in it. So the traditional diet is built almost entirely around meat and fish, reindeer, horse and fish, caught and then frozen almost instantly by the air itself. Fresh vegetables are a rare luxury shipped in from far away. The people here have, for generations, lived on what this frozen land can provide and little else. Even death is harder here, because the ground is frozen so deep and so hard. Digging a grave is a brutal, days-long ordeal. To bury someone, the earth first has to be thawed, often by lighting bonfires over the spot for days on end, slowly softening the iron-hard ground just enough to dig. Even saying goodbye is a battle against the cold. And daily life goes on regardless. Children in Oymyakon still walk to school through this. In fact, school is often only cancelled when the temperature drops below around -52 degrees. Sit with that. A child's day off requires it to be colder than the inside of a freezer, many times over. And for much of the winter, they do it in near darkness, this far north. The sun barely clears the horizon, leaving only a few hours of thin grey daylight and up to 21 hours of night. Phones and cameras die in seconds if exposed. Glasses can freeze to your face. Simply being outside for too long, unprepared, is a genuine threat to your life. So the obvious question hangs over the whole place. Why? Why would anyone choose to live in the single coldest inhabited spot on Earth, enduring all of this, generation after generation? For many, the answer is simply that this is home. Their families have lived here, herding and hunting and surviving for a very long time, adapted over generations to a cold that would break most of us. There's a deep, stubborn pride in enduring what almost no one else on the planet could, but fewer of them remain every year. Oymyakon once held a couple of thousand people back in the Soviet era. Today it's down to a few hundred and still shrinking as the young leave for warmer, easier lives elsewhere, which makes the ones who stay all the more remarkable, a dwindling handful, holding a line at the very edge of where human beings can live at all. And strange as it sounds, this frozen emptiness has mattered to the outside world before. During the Second World War, an airfield was built near here as part of a lifeline that stretched clear across the top of the planet, the route used to ferry American warplanes, handed to the Soviets under Lend-Lease, from Alaska across Siberia to the Eastern Front. Think about that. Some of the aircraft that helped turn back the German invasion were flown through one of the most hostile patches of ground on Earth, landing to refuel in cold that could freeze an engine solid. For a brief, strange moment in history, this remote nowhere was a stepping stone in a world war. But the road that brings you to Oymyakon carries a far darker chapter of that same century, and this is the part of the story that turns it from a tale of extreme weather into something genuinely haunting. To reach Oymyakon, you travel along the Kalima Highway, a remote route carved through hundreds of kilometers of wilderness, and a road with a second name that tells you everything. They call it the Road of Bones. It earned that name in one of the grimmest chapters of the 20th century. This region of Siberia was, under Soviet rule, a land of labour camps, part of the brutal Gulag system, and the roads and infrastructure that opened up this frozen frontier were built by prisoners. Forced labourers, sent to the very edge of the habitable world, made to carve a highway through the permafrost by hand, in exactly the kind of cold we've been describing. Enormous numbers of them died. They died from the cold, from starvation, from exhaustion, from the impossible conditions. And the horror captured in that nickname is this. According to the grim tradition around the road, the bodies of the many who perished building it were, in places, simply laid into the very foundations of the highway itself. The dead became part of the road, which is why, to this day, it is remembered as the Road of Bones. So the path to the coldest town on Earth is, in a real sense, paved with a memory of terrible suffering. The remoteness, the cold, the isolation that make Oymyakon so extraordinary today are tangled up with a history in which this frozen emptiness was used as a place of punishment and death on a massive scale. And that changes how you see the little town at the end of it, because the people who live in Oymyakon now, herding their hardy horses, keeping their engines running, sending their frost-covered children to school, are living in a place shaped by all of it. The unforgiving natural cold and the dark human history that the cold made possible. That is Oymyakon, a place where breath freezes into a whisper in the air, where the ground is too hard to bury the dead without fire, where cars must never sleep and children measure a day off in unimaginable degrees of cold. A few hundred people holding on to an ordinary life in the most extreme place a human being can permanently call home, at the end of a road built on the bones of the people who came before them. We think of the cold as an absence, just the lack of warmth. Oymyakon shows you it's something far more powerful than that, a force that shapes every meal, every journey, every goodbye, and a force that people, somehow, have learned to look in the eye every single winter morning and simply carry on. If places at the very edge of what a human can endure pull at something in you, the coldest, the hottest, the most forbidden ground on earth, then subscribe and come with me. There are more of these places waiting at the ends of the world, and we've only just begun to reach them.